I had to rack my brain for quite a long time to think if there was any way that I could make this video without sounding like a hypocrite. A good 5,000 to 6,000 of you have decided to subscribe to my channel after my Genshin video, and regardless of what I said there, I was and still am extremely grateful for this game, for both having been a source of joy and escapism to me for such a long time, as well as being the topic that got me from 9,000 to 6,000 subscribers within a few weeks. After a lot of thought, I revisited the game once more. Given how many hiatuses I've had with this game and how many times I'd return only to burn out after a couple of weeks, I really didn't have my expectations too high. And let me tell you, I have never been so happy to be wrong. I rewatched my old video to check all the points that I had brought up, all the little things about Genshin that pissed me off back then, and to my surprise, almost none of them were fixed. The character acquisition and leveling still make no sense, the events are still limited, there's still a lack of endgame content, and the Abyss is still a fucking joke with enemy placements and choices that are designed to waste your time. It's ridiculous how you can bring a party that will absolutely demolish anything in the base game and stay in one single chamber of the Abyss for hours without it making any significant progress. All that said, the thing that actually made me stop playing more than any of those problems was the fact that the game no longer made me feel the way it used to. The sense of wonder and amazement of being faced with a nigh limitless world to explore that perfectly balanced a sense of familiarity and comfort with the thrill and novelty of visiting fascinating distinct places was gone. Mondstadt and Liyue did that amazingly, and so did Inazuma, but by Sumeru, at least to me, things started to become stale. Now, one very important disclaimer that I need to make here is that I have catastrophically shit taste. Well, you're watching one of my videos, so it's not like you're much better, but my point is that I didn't like Sumeru. It's not that I hated it, it's not even that I disliked it, it's just that it was a very passable experience for me. I could spend a couple of minutes trying to explain what it is that I didn't like about it, but I'll be real with you, I don't know. The nation just didn't click with me, and although the Arc Quest did go hard, I just wasn't invested. Sumeru is an objectively good nation, but nothing about it really captivated me the same way the others did. We had like, what, a year to explore it? But couple my general disinterest with my burnout, and I just didn't care enough to do so. I thought that at that point, the good times that I've had with Genshin had already passed, and for a good while the game wouldn't have anything new that would interest me. Or at least I thought, based on my past experience. And then came Fontaine. The nation of Fontaine was probably the one that I was looking forward to the most since the release of the game, even though it is technically based off of... No, but for real, I know I shit a lot on France and Britain on my videos, but it's all for the meme. I actually love the aesthetics and cultures of both countries, and honestly, after the first few hours exploring the nation, I already knew that it was going to be my favorite one so far. Prior to my relapse, I was watching everyone playing from the side and commenting on how amazing the new version was, and I just kept to myself. Like, I felt like I didn't have the right to go back to playing after the video I made, and even though a lot of the things appearing on my YouTube and Reddit did look very alluring, I knew that would be better if I just didn't go back, at least for a while. And that's what happened. I stayed offline for 3 versions and came back on December 30th, if I remember correctly. It was really weird to log in again because the game felt prettier than I remembered. Maybe it was the RTX update or some shit, or maybe it was the nostalgia, but the world felt more beautiful than what I recalled. I still have a shit ton of things that I need to do in Sumeru, but I'm gonna be real, I don't really give a shit. So I immediately started the next part of the Arc Quest and headed off to Fontaine. From the very first mission, the game already had me quite enthralled. In all other nations, it took a long time before you actually managed to find out who was the Archon or you managed to meet them. But Fontaine has you immediately meeting up with Fossilor the moment you set foot on the harbor. From the discussion I saw online, a lot of people seem to think that she was bratty and pretentious and pathetic, and I eat that shit up. From the moment she first appeared, I already knew that I was gonna like her. What can I say? I love me a good girl failure, and her design hits all the right marks for me. She's so endearing every time she's on screen, I bet that her quest is gonna be funny as fuck. Oh my god. For real now, this quest Jesus Christ. It's really hard to make me cry, especially with fiction. I've actively sought out things that would emotionally destroy me, and even when I was invested in the story, when everyone was bawling their eyes out, I'd just be there, appreciating the sorrow, but not to a point where I would actually have an emotional reaction. There had only been 2 works of fiction that made me cry up until that point. The Fontaine arc and quest was the 3rd. Furina went from being a somewhat endearing character with funny antics to probably my favorite character in all of fiction, and I do not say this lightly. The same goes for the quest. It's probably on the top 3 best quests I've ever played in the game when it comes to story. Actually, it is probably the best. As an aspiring writer, I sincerely hope that one day I'll be able to create a story quite as touching as the one that I've experienced in Fontaine. Okay, that's enough sincerity for me. I'm going to go back to hiding beneath 10 layers of irony. Fellas, the question is not how many people I'd kill for Furina, the question is how many I would let live. But unfortunately, I can't just get her bratty ass and toss it into my Serenity pot so that she can be herself and eat as much dessert as she wants because I am 1 version late. She debuted in 4.2 and I came back in 4.3, specifically during the Fontaine Film Festival. In my previous video, I had mentioned how annoying it was when you were minding your own business just walking through the world and you accidentally trigger an unskippable dialogue cutscene. Well, that happened to me as I was walking through the court of Fontaine and accidentally triggered this event by walking on this waypoint. Xavier appeared out of nowhere and it was just like, oh hey Trevor, long time no see. Fontaine changed a lot since... Major story spoiler. Bro, who the fuck are you? Things like these typically don't happen because most of the time quests are locked behind the completion of other quests. I even complained about this on my other video that a new player who'd still be fumbling their way through Mondstadt wouldn't be able to participate in events that include characters and nations that they didn't experience yet. And it was as if Hoyo was listening in on me saying this because they removed that restriction for this event for whatever reason. This went beyond breaking causality as the event forced me to meet a Furina that has canonically already experienced both the Archon quest and her character quest. Meanwhile, I was doing the aforementioned Archon quest at the same time, and that was canonically the first time the traveler had ever set foot in the city with the objective to find a way to have an audience with Furina. And guess what? When the time came for her to appear in the main quest, she was busy with the event, so I had to play through the event, avoiding as many spoilers as possible, and speaking with Furina like we're old mates or some shit. At least to the point where her model would despawn from the map so she could teleport to whatever place the main quest needed her to be. This wasn't the only time this happened, nor was it the only time cutscenes made me want to beat the shit out of whoever coded the game this way, but whatever. The rest of the Archon quest went smoothly, as did the exploration of the region. The game had me pretty entertained for about a week now, and it probably has something to do with the fact that I have 4 versions worth of content to catch up to. This was the first time I was having fun with Genshin in a very long time. I even managed to get Swire. Oh shit, wrong game. And as I was exploring the rest of the map, I got to thinking, what is it that made me like the game now? What was so different now that I was having so much fun? And I think I know a reason, at least to me. You see, this was the first time in a very long time that the world felt alive to me. Like I said, it probably has something to do with the metric shitton of content that I have to catch up to, but what I really mean is that there's something about Fontaine that feels more dynamic than the other nations. More lively. It's hard to put into words because it feels like I'm describing a very subjective feeling. Do you, perchance, remember back when we couldn't put characters in the teapot? With the exception of the launch of Inazuma, the patch where they introduced that ability was probably the one that I was most hyped for. Let's be real, the characters are what breathe life to this world, and I'm pretty sure that I'm not the only one who thinks that we should be able to see them go about their lives. Whenever there comes a moment in some random quest where they just spawn somewhere, I find myself stalling the quest just to keep them in the world for just a bit longer, even if they're just going to repeat the same lines of dialogue over and over again. I want to go into Palais Mermonia and find Vaguelette sitting on his chair. I want to walk through the Academia and bump into Alhaitham. I want to stroll through Liyue and find Kachingi, you name it. Seriously, I don't know why Hoyo doesn't do this. I am not convinced that the busy character problem is real because NPCs can just despawn. What's the problem with having the playable characters just out and about? The length this game goes to not show playable characters is borderline hilarious sometimes. Sure, the world quests are nice, but the default NPC models are not pretty to look at. Of course, the game has to make some concessions to run on mobile, but what is the problem of using one out of the 72 highly detailed character models to deliver the quest and be out in the world? The problem can't be because it breaks immersion, cause you can't just have two of the same character at the same time. It's not like Genshin is a realistic game anyway. In fact, I'd argue that it would make things only more immersive. For the quests specifically, you don't even have to dub them, just let the characters be out in the world. It's funny how they'll pay the voice actors to dub on the limited events, but not for something that would be permanent. But whatever, this is just one of the suggestions that I have, and naturally it's not like it will be enough to fix the game in my eyes. The lack of endgame content is still a very pressing matter, and I'm not entirely sure if it has been addressed by the devs yet. That unfortunately means that this rekindling of my passion for this game will probably only be temporary. I'll probably keep playing until I get Farina and Vaguelette and this guy. But will there be enough to keep me playing past that? I genuinely hope there will be. I said it before and I'll say it again, I love this game. I escape to this game. But the biggest problem with Genshin is that after some point it stops letting you enjoy it. After you've completed all the quests, explored all the maps, did all the commissions, what is there left for you to do? Sure, there will be more content in the form of missions and events on the next patch, but you'll only be able to play them once, and that will be it. There is, as of the writing of the script to this video, and as far as I'm aware, not a single piece of content in this game that is suited for replayability. You can grind for an artifact that is like 0.6% better than the previous one, and you can do your commissions and pull for new characters, but then what? After those 20 daily minutes of gameplay are over, what will you do? What if I want to stay in this world, not forever, but just for a little longer? What else is there to do? The Abyss? No. There's one thing that I really envy about the people who are just now getting into Genshin. Imagine this is like your first week in this world and you've just ascended Dragonspine or the Jade Chamber, only to be faced with all those landmarks in the distant horizon. All the different places that you have yet to explore sprawled before you. The islands of Inazuma off in the distance, the chasm, the divine tree of Sumeru, the tower of Ipsissimus in Fontaine. Imagine when we also have Natlan and Snezhnaya and Khaenri'ah and Celestia. Places that are both hours and years away from us. I envy the new player because right in that moment, they will have the feeling that they have an infinite world to explore. And they do, until they don't. Until it ends. I hate that it will end, because I love it. If you watched my other video, you might have noticed that I forgot to blur my UID. That video is the most viewed one on my channel, so you can bet your ass that I'm not going to re-upload it. But since it's out there, I guess it's pointless to hide it on this one. Fuck it, just go ahead and add me. If I have a space in the list, I'll add you back, but don't expect me to like talk or play with you, because I prefer to keep things single player on Genshin, plus I'm on PlayStation, so I need to plug a keyboard every time I need to chat with someone. That being said, if any of you would kindly offer your world so that I may get the dewdrops for my Novia, you have my vocal consent to tell everyone you know that I am your friend. In Genshin.